I've been driving big rigs for over 20 years, and if there's one thing I know, it's that the open road holds its fair share of secrets. You hear a lot of stories on the CB radio. Guys claiming they've seen ghosts, weird creatures, or things they can't explain. I never put much stock in any of it. At least not until that night on Route 66. It was around 2:30 a.m., and I was making a late-night haul through the Arizona stretch of the famous highway. The road was quiet, just me and the hum of the engine cutting through the darkness. The desert seemed endless, and even though I'd driven this route plenty of times before, something felt off. The air felt heavy, and every now and then, I'd catch a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye, but every time I looked, there was nothing there. As I approached a long, desolate stretch between Kingman and Flagstaff, my CB radio crackled to life. I hadn't heard anyone for miles. Startled me. "Anyone out there?" a voice said, barely audible over the static. I grabbed the mic. "This is Big Red." "Who's calling?" No answer, just static. "Hey, you good?" I tried again. Then the voice returned, clearer this time. "You shouldn't be out here." I frowned, looking at the empty road ahead. "What are you talking about?" Again, silence. I was about to dismiss it when I saw something up ahead, dim lights like the flicker of old headlights. I slowed down. It was an old truck, barely moving, like it had been on the road for decades, its rusted frame swaying side to side. "Need help?" I asked into the mic, assuming it was the driver, but the radio remained silent. I pulled alongside the truck, expecting to see an old-timer struggling with his rig, but there was no one inside. The windows were rolled down, and the cabin was empty. My skin prickled. The truck rolled on by itself, like it was being pulled by some invisible force. Suddenly, my radio buzzed again, and the voice from earlier came through, this time more urgent. "You need to leave. It's following you." I slammed on my brakes, my heart racing as the old truck disappeared into the darkness ahead. My headlights flickered. The engine sputtered and died. I sat there, frozen, gripping the wheel, wondering if this was some kind of sick joke. I tried to restart the engine, but nothing. The desert around me seemed to grow colder, and the once calm wind began to howl. Then I saw it, a figure standing on the side of the road, illuminated by the pale glow of my emergency lights. It was a woman, dressed in a tattered, old-fashioned white dress, her hair hanging in messy, wet strands over her face. I couldn't make out her features, but she didn't move. She just stood there, staring. My breath caught in my throat. I'd heard stories about ghost sightings on Route 66, but I'd always laughed them off. Now, staring at this woman who seemed to materialize from thin air, I wasn't laughing anymore. I locked my doors, even though I knew that wouldn't do much against whatever this was. The radio buzzed one last time. "She's coming for you." Before I could react, the figure moved. 1 second she was standing on the side of the road. The next she was right in front of my truck, her face pressed against the windshield. Her eyes, God, her eyes were hollow, empty, and black as night. Her lips curled into a smile that sent a shiver down my spine. I panicked, slamming the ignition again, praying the truck would start. The woman's hands slapped the glass, and I swear, I could hear her nails screeching as they dragged down the windshield. The engine roared to life, and I floored it, swerving around her and speeding down Route 66 as fast as my rig could go. I didn't look back. Couldn't. It wasn't until I reached the next truck stop, hours later, that I finally dared to pull over. My hands were shaking as I parked and stumbled out of the cab. I didn't tell anyone what happened. I mean, who would believe me? But I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Not anymore. To this day, every time I drive that stretch of Route 66, I keep my eyes straight ahead, and I never, ever answer the radio past midnight, because I know she's still out there. And once you see her, she never stops following you.